So who am I? Well, I go by the name of Mozo. Um, I am a father. I am a husband. I am a digital creator, whatever y'all want to call it these days. I'm a mental health advocate, and I'm just a man that's just trying to make the world a better place. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I'm trying to do that by just having conversations about topics that I feel need to be spoken about more.
Mm.
That's really who I am. Like in a few words.
I wanted to ask you, where did you start that journey of yours of being a mental health advocate? Where did you go through something that like kind of sparked something in your life that you were like, you know what, I want to work on myself and I also want to share it with people?
Yeah, I think it was just pretty much a lot of times I feel like um for me growing up, it wasn't a topic that was ever brought up, like mental health, right? Like
Mhm,
you hear about your physical health and your weight and
mhm.
make sure you're eating the right food, but like nothing ever comes up and family never came up in school.
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody talking about
Mm.
mental health or anything like that. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that I had to do some work on myself, in order for me to be the best version of myself and for my family and for those around me.
Right.
So that's really what really started the journey. What sparked it? I'm just gonna say that it was just, I guess, being home during COVID, during the pandemic.
Mm.
That played a huge part into that because of the fact that even though that was going on, there were a lot less distractions in a sense
Mm.
because you weren't out and about doing things. You were stuck at home and you had a lot of time to think about things.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though there was a huge distraction in COVID, a lot of the small distractions like going to work or
Mm-hmm.
having to deal with traffic or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
anything you could
Yeah.
think of,
A
so many little
homeless man
things that
jerking
we
off on the train.
right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so so many things that like
Yes.
you that
So many
that
distractions.
distract you that we don't realize were things that
Right.
weren't there anymore. So it just gave me time to think about myself and who
Right.
I am and what am I doing and what is really my truly my purpose.
Mm.
And I truly believe that it's my purpose to do this.
Nice.
What was some things that you started looking back on and at the way you was raised, how you was brought up? Like, what was some issues that you first started discovering? Like, I need to work on this. This is something that was put on me through society and family, but not really who I am.
I think the biggest one was communication
Yeah.
and communication by also like listening, right? Like
Mhm.
being able to not listening to like a response, but listening to really try to understand and comprehend what someone is telling me, and not just my wife or like my closest friends or anybody, but just everyone, like everything in general. Like I feel like for me, I was raised to think you're listening, but you're ready to respond. You're really to
Mm-hmm.
ready to
To
attack
attack.
or
Yeah.
be on defensive. This that. So instead
Yeah.
of doing that, I'm more now of a listener where I'm just taking things in, processing, and even before I respond, I'm very careful with what I'm saying in the sense of I don't want to just respond impulsive. Like what
Mm-hmm.
I want to actually take it in what's being said and really give a true healthy answer.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did
But
that
But
okay? Mm.
but
uh,
sorry, what I
no,
was
go
gonna say
ahead.
was that it took me back to my childhood, and it took me
Okay.
back to the fact that um like communication wise, it's not something that I was taught. Like it was something
Yeah.
that I had to learn later on in
Yeah.
Same
life,
here. Yeah.
and it also showed me that I have to teach this to my kids now. Since they're younger, let them get started with this earlier, so they don't have to wait until they're in their 20s or 30s to learn
Mm-hmm.
these things. They could do it at a young age, and then as they get older, they'll be able to communicate in a healthy way, without having to deal with maybe what I had to go through in order to
Mm-hmm.
understand why I communicate the way I do, or why I'm not able to listen, or why I'm not able to understand.
How did you go about learning all of this for yourself? Did you go to therapy? Did you read books? Like, how did you find the answers within you?
Yeah, well, I did. I started going to therapy.
Okay.
Um, that was the first step I did. The second thing I did was I had a conversation with my mom and my dad. Like a real conversation, like not
Mm-hmm.
something like, oh, like a deep conversation. Like I told them
Nice.
like the things that I feel like hurt me as a kid, as a child
Yeah.
growing up,
Mm-hmm.
the times that I felt like I was let down, and I also forgave them, and I understood that they did the best that they could. You know what I'm
Nice.
saying? Like it was something like I'm holding on to them. Like I don't want him to think that, like, you know, I know it's hard. Me as a
Yeah.
parent, I know it'd be difficult
Mhm.
for me to take in my kids telling me, well, dad, you could have done this.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
felt this way. That would hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like hearing your
Mhm.
kids say that. So I also wanted to end and be like, I understand. Like, Ba, you were raised by your parents who taught you. That's what you learned from them. Ma, you
Yeah.
were raised
Mhm.
by your mom, and that's what you
Mhm.
learned. So you guys came together, and you guys did the best you could. And I am a product of that. And now it's my job also to be understanding of that and be better, right? And
Mhm.
Yeah.
and and do those kind of things. Um,
How
but
did that
really,
help you
that's
build your relationship?
Yeah.
it's been great. Ever since I had the conversation with my mom and my dad, it's been an amazing relationship. We've been more open with each other. We've been
Great.
able to just have conversations about many different things. My dad tells me he loves me all the time, which I never
Yeah.
heard growing up,
Mhm.
right? Even a
Mhm.
simple "I
Mhm.
love you," "te quiero," simple things
Yeah.
like that. You know what I'm saying? Like those little things that growing up you don't really hear.
Mhm.
And you know, it feels good to hear it now as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
And how did
You know
that
what I'm
help
saying?
you now raising your children? What do you learn from them through communicating? For them being both of you guys being open in this relationship.
Yeah, I think for me, what I learned is like to listen to my kids.
Mhm.
Like we're so used to just talking all the time to our kids, right? Like talking. But sometimes we have to sit down and listen to them, right? Like give them the platform. Like we have family meetings where we're all able to speak, like speak your mind. Or sometimes not family meetings. Sometimes maybe it's a one-on-one with my son or
Yeah.
Yeah.
my daughter, because sometimes one-on-one is better because they feel more comfortable speaking in that
Yeah.
space. But I just feel like it taught me to like, even though they're kids, they have feelings. Even though they're kids, they need to have some type of chance, you know, a way to express themselves. They
Mhm.
need to have
Yes.
that. And if they don't have it, they're not gonna do it at school with people they don't really know. You know, like they know them, but they don't feel that comfortable.
Yeah.
So why
They're
not do
gonna
it with
keep
your
it
mom and
in.
your dad, the people that you live with, people that you should,
Mhm.
you know, feel the most comfortable doing it with.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's really how it's helped me be a better parent too.
From the community, you now you're communicating. Did you have anything creative? What was another outlet that you used before you knew that
That's right.
communication was something that had to be learned and used as a powerful tool to express yourself and let go? Was there other forms of tools that you had that you
To
used as an
walk through.
outlet to
Yeah.
escape?
Um, I was always been big on writing.
Nice.
Like I'm the kind of person I have to write everything down, like whatever it may be, I need to put it down on paper. So I've always been somebody who just wrote. Like,
Mm.
um, growing up, I read Tupac's poetry book,
Oh,
um,
nice.
which was I think it was called "The Rose That Grew from Concrete," something along those lines. I don't wanna say the title wrong, but it was
Mhm.
something along those lines. And I read it, and I was young, and it really inspired me because like Tupac is somebody who has this image that everybody just has is like he's a rapper, he's this or he's that,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rough,
Yeah.
right? Very rough, right?
Mhm.
But when you read his poetry, it shows a whole nother side of who this
Yeah.
person
Yes.
was, like a soft side, an emotional side, a side with feelings, you know, beautiful things to say about women, beautiful
Mm.
things to say about, you know, not everything that his music portrayed or
Yeah.
anything like that,
Showed
but
up in
like
his
another side of
poetry.
the person. So for me, like writing was something that really helped me growing up. Even nowadays. So I do it on my notes on my iPhone
Yeah.
now,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, because I
Yeah.
feel like
The
carrying a
rose that
notebook
grew
around.
from the iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
Right, that's a good one.
Yo, you can take it, man. Just give me
I like
2%.
that
I'm
one.
good. 2%.
I like that one.
um,
Yeah.
how the writing was effective for you? Where does that take you emotionally? You know, when you're writing, you know, like
Oh,
for the stage for us, the
yeah.
creating for us is it's a high, but it's also something that takes us on a journey within ourselves
Mhm.
to express and connect to. It's different. Just like writing, I love writing too. It's different for me rather than
Performing.
performing and stuff like
Yeah.
that. What does that serve for you? You writing when you're on in your own zone.
I think writing for me is moments of like reflection.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like it gives me a lot of moments to just like think back um to why am I writing this? Like
Mm.
Yeah.
what is the root of why I feel the way I feel about this?
Mm.
You know?
Mm.
And again, that's me with just growth, right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of times in the past, I was afraid to go back to the past or go
Mm.
back to like what the root was because I
Mhm.
didn't want to think about that or because it got me upset. But I feel like I've accepted my past. I've accepted that you have to sometimes visit the root of whatever it may be
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
order to grow. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely something
Yeah.
that helps me when I'm writing. Like I'm just reflecting sometimes
Do you ever go back to your writings? Because I've learned from our spiritual teacher that every time when you go back to things, especially if something that you were working on, that's where you find your answers to the questions that you had. Do you ever go back and read like, oh, I was going through something and you read it and you're like, oh, wow, that's the answer.
I go back to everything that I write.
Nice.
Everything, like every podcast episode I've done, every writing I've done, just like like personal writing I've done, everything that I've written. There's times when I literally just sit there on the couch and just look through my notebook or go through my notes and read everything, because like you said, I feel like it takes me back and also reminds me. It also reminds me where I'm coming from, like the growth also that I've made, like where I was back then, where I am now. So I definitely always go back to my writings, and I love it. Like it really, like it brings me joy when I'm done reading my writings. I'm like, bro, yo, like you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like you're doing this, makes me feel good about myself.
But yeah,
it's nice, and it's showing you how far you come along too, so you're not forgetting that about yourself, because a lot of people tend to forget like how far they come along, and they're so hard on themselves. And I tend to do that too sometimes.
You also like leaving a legacy behind, and it's constantly remind you. It's a living legacy where you could constantly rewind it and watch it and go back in time. I wanted to touch on something that you said, that Tupac had this image, but then he has this other side. I know us being men in society, we're already painting an image that we're not vulnerable and all that stuff. And men don't share feelings, whatever. And if we do, we're a bitch or we're gay, all that fucking stupid shit. But how was it challenging for you now to shed this old image of yourself and now come full circle and continue to learn and grow into this new image of Mozo? Was that challenging for you, especially around friends, society, family, whatever it is? And what kept you pushing to be like, you know what? No, I'm gonna stay on this path because I'm no longer that dude from the past,
I'm gonna say that for me, it hasn't been hard, just because I'm the kind of person that's always been like true to myself, in the sense of like, this is who I am. And like I've never walked into a room wanting to be accepted by anybody or wanting, that kind of stuff. I've never been that kind of person. I'm the kind of person that you will see sitting down at a restaurant, anybody. I'm okay with anybody saying, "Oh, look, he's eating by himself." I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
me
okay
too.
with
There's one bill that you're paying for, so it's great.
Exactly. Facts.
But like, I've never was concerned about what other people thought of me. Like, I never had that.
Why
in my
is
head.
that?
Like,
because that is such a hard thing. That's for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But why was it for you that you didn't give it that much of an emphasis?
Yeah.
I think it's because like growing up, I was always to myself. Like I feel like I was just somebody who was always to myself. So like I played on basketball teams, I played on baseball teams, and I was cool with everybody. When it was the game was over, I was okay with walking home with myself and going home and being to myself. Like I know, like I may come across like I am a personable person. I am a friendly person, which I am, but I am also okay with just sitting in my sala, chilling and watching, reading a book, or watching some ESPN highlights and being okay alone doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that helped me just be who I am. And like I said, like I'm always just trying to uplift people. I'm just trying to be positive. You know what I'm saying? Like that's another thing. Like if I'm in a space where people are talking about something which I feel like I'm not okay with, I'll give my 2 cents. And if it continues, I'll be like, all right, y'all do what y'all do. I'll holler at y'all, and that's it. Keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm also not trying to fight anybody or do anything like that, because that's a negative with a negative, which doesn't equal a positive. In this sense, it doesn't. Maybe in math class, it does.
Yeah. In life, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yo, I even forgot.
I was like, damn, man, I'm about to fail this test. I'm not good at math, but
so funny.
So, now take us to this podcast, right? You're doing all this communicating. You're doing all this negative, and a negative equal positive. You're doing all this math equations.
Therapy.
You're doing therapy, and I'm gonna touch on therapy too after this. You know what? Because this may lead to the podcast. Yeah. But what's something that was so helpful in therapy that helps you to this day? What's something a lesson that you learned that still carries, that you was like almost like epiphany, an eye opener, like, oh shit.
Me, for therapy, has really been like the honesty and being comfortable with being honest. I think that's something that I can admit. I wasn't always honest. Like if somebody asked me, yo, Mozo, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I could be like not good. I could be like going through it. I'm all right, chilling. Now somebody asks me if I'm having a rough day, it could be whatever. I'm like, it's been a rough day, but
Mhm.
I'll be like, it's a rough day. I'm gonna try my best to make it through, but I am having a rough day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to say things like that. I think
Yep.
that's one thing that therapy has definitely taught me, is just to be honest about
Mhm.
even how you feel. Like, something as small as, how many times do we ask people, how you doing? How you feeling?
And
Everybody
everybody says
gives
the
it,
same thing.
I'm all right, I'm chilling, I'm good,
Actually,
I'm
we
great.
don't
Da,
even
da, da.
answer when someone says, "How you doing? How you
How you
doing?"
doing? It's true.
Right.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, we don't. We
How
don't.
are you?
We
How
don't
are you?
answer. Think
What
about
happened
that.
to
We
that?
don't answer. Like, how you
We
doing?
don't.
How you
Yeah.
doing?
I caught on to that, and I was like, I'm gonna answer before I even ask.
And
How
if
are
you
you?
Yes.
Because I
say how
caught
you
on to it
doing,
too.
and you don't even wait for the person's response, you just walk away.
Right, right.
Let's
Hi,
just
how
say
you doing?
good.
Oh, I'm good. Bye. And you
Yeah.
go.
So I made it a point to, like, to the people, when I ask them how they're doing, like, because people like to give those answers, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, how you feeling? Like, how you doing? Like, I ask them again, how you feeling? How you
Oh,
doing?
good.
And you get a more, yeah, I'm all right. Like, you get, like, but
Yeah.
even if they don't give you an answer, you kind of tell by how they answer the question how they're
Yeah.
doing. Someone could be like, I'm all right, and they sound kind of down. You could kind of tell maybe their energy's kind of low. Maybe they're going
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
something right now, and that gives me a sign, like, maybe this person could use a little bit, maybe a little bit of love today. You
Some
know what I'm
Mozo
saying? Like, some
juice.
Yeah.
extra
Yeah.
love, some extra, from
Some Mozo
Mozo.
left.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but those are the kind of things that therapy has taught me. Like,
Mhm.
just honesty.
Mhm.
And just being open with myself too. Like, like, looking in the mirror,
Yeah.
and self talk sometimes. Doing what you got to say, saying what you have to say to yourself, and being honest with yourself. Because a lot of times we're not even honest with ourselves. Which,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how are we supposed to be honest with other people if we're not honest with ourselves?
Mhm.
Exactly.
Was that hard for you to be honest with yourself?
Yeah, it was in the beginning.
Mhm.
It's tough when you're looking in the mirror, or you're talking to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or looking at yourself and seeing, the things that you need to work on,
Right.
or things that you could have done better. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard, and especially in the beginning. That was one of the things that I probably struggled with the most, was that, was just like, like, saying, like, you try your best in life, live with regrets, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you say to yourself, "Damn, I could have done that better." You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I could have handled that situation a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I could have, I
Yeah.
sometimes I think back to school.
Yeah.
Like, so I
Yeah.
think back to school. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
if I would
Damn.
know what I
Look
know
at
now,
Yeah.
I would have been studying my ass off, and I would have been,
Man,
you know
mine
what I'm
didn't
saying?
differ. I
Like,
was like, damn, I could have
I made
cheated
school.
better.
I'm like, I made school so difficult. I'm like, I
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
school so damn difficult when it wasn't even that difficult. Like, I could have made it a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? That things, little
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Sometimes you think
Yeah.
about, but
What made
What
you
at the end
made
of
think?
the day, it's been more about, like I said, just being honest with myself, and making sure that I continue to do that.
what made you keep going? Because working on yourself is the hardest thing for
People
many
give up
people, which a lot of people give up on that and they just go for the easy.
and they blame
What
everybody
made you
else.
keep going and going and say, no, I'm gonna keep going, pushing through because it's a hard work, but you keep doing it.
Yeah. What made me keep going was the way I saw my relationships blossom. Most importantly, the relationship with myself.
Mm.
Relationship with myself, I felt happy with myself. I saw that things that would get me upset, or would get me, things weren't. I wasn't letting them come in my way of, me feeling a certain way. Like, I was able to push through certain moments. Relationship with my wife, with
Yeah.
my kids, everything with my parents. All these relationships are all in a space where I could be like,
Yep.
this is all because I did it. I'm working on the relationship with myself. Like, it's hard to have. It's like, it sounds like so, like, corny, and like people say all the time, but like, you really cannot have a great relationship with anybody else unless you
Mm-hmm.
have one with yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're working with yourself, unless you're doing that work, it doesn't matter. Which is why a lot of relationships are failing nowadays. Which is why a lot of things go
Yeah.
wrong nowadays, because a lot of people are just looking, 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 when everything you're looking for
It's
is
right here.
Mhm.
within, is inside of you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
all in you, but you have to be able to do the work to find it
Yeah.
sometimes. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
for some people it may be easier, it's right there, they know it. But for
Mm-hmm.
us, well, at least for myself, it took me doing the work to find that
Mm-hmm.
everything that I was looking for, everything that I want, everything that I need is really within. And I'm able to give it out to other people as well, because I know that I have it inside of me.
Mhm.
How did you feel? I mean, we're always learning and growing. It doesn't stop. How did you feel when you had that breakthrough? That like, wow, this is what it's about. What was that like for you?
It was like, it was
An
like, I can't
orgasm,
even describe it into words. It was like,
right?
I, it was almost like going to like the tallest building and just screaming and feeling free, like just like doing the loudest scream. You know when you have like your chest feels tight, and like a nervous, like you feel like a lot of tension. It was like letting go of all of that and just screaming. Like that's what it feels like. That's what it, and it still feels like that sometimes. Like I said, like when I go through when certain things happen, I'm like, damn, that happened. I'm like, that wouldn't, I'm like in my head, I'm like, that wouldn't have happened unless I was doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless I was doing the work on myself. Like, I look at my kids sometimes, the fact they're so happy, the fact that they're like, and I'm just, they talk to me and they're so open to talk to me. And then my son, the fact that my son came home from the day from school was like, Dad, can you believe that the gym teacher, he got upset at me because I said sorry to another kid on the line. I know I wasn't supposed to be talking, but the fact that he said it with so much, you know, like honesty without being afraid. Like I would have never said that to my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't have felt comfortable saying that to my dad because I would have been like, what is he gonna think about me? What is he gonna say? Am I gonna be in trouble? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but the fact that he's so open with just telling me things, and I feel like blessed. I'm like, that's exactly what I would want. You know what I'm saying? It's for my kids to feel comfortable enough to just speak to me and tell me how they feel about anything, like whatever it may be. Just tell me I'm here, you know?
How did now this podcast, how did this podcast come to you? What was the idea? What was the challenges you faced? Like, what made you want to do this, and put your voice on it, and, you know, and share your truth?
Yeah. Before I get into that, I also want to give a shout out to, besides therapy, I also joined the men's group that's based out in California, West Coast, near y'all.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, shout out to the Bloom homies. During the pandemic, I met with them. It was once a week. We would meet on Zoom. And it was awesome. A group of men were able to talk about things that men usually don't speak about, right?
Nice.
Our feelings. Like our true feelings.
Wait, what is that?
Right.
All right.
You guys talk.
But a lot of that also led to my podcast, because right when I joined the men's group was right when I started my podcast. And the idea behind the podcast was just, it's titled Watch Your Mouth with Mozo. And it's titled Watch Your Mouth because I feel like growing up, you're always told to watch your mouth. Like, watch what you say, watch your mouth. But nobody tells you why. You should watch your mouth. But the reason why you should watch your mouth is because you should be processing and listening and, you know, and being able to answer in the correct way, right? And the correct way just means like in your honest, healthy way. Like, like I'm all about honesty, but you can do it in a healthy way.
Right.
Like,
it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yep.
Right. You don't have to be rude about it. Like, I could disagree with you. It doesn't mean I have to be like rude about it. I could just do it respectfully, right? But that has to be something that has to also be taught to people sometimes because we're not taught to respond that way. Right. So the podcast, I also wanted to focus on like talking about toxic masculinity. I wanted to talk about parenthood. I want to talk about men and emotions, mental health. I wanted to talk about all of that. And when I first started the podcast, it was just me talking about these topics. Like that's all it was. Then I expanded to then having guests on the show as well, which guests that did all types of things. Some were content creators, some were singers, some, you know, from everywhere, like, from all aspects of life. But one thing that was focused always on the show was like what inspires you, what motivates you, you know, what, you know, and a lot of them when the show is over, they're like, damn, I didn't even know that, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they learn something new about themselves. Like that's what I wanted the show to be. Is like when you finish this episode of the show, I want you to feel like, damn, I didn't even know that I had that in me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know that I could do that. I didn't even know that I did that. You know, like to feel good about yourself, because a lot of people think interviews or think about this and think like, oh, it's all about just me talking about what I do. It's all about this, all about that, right? I want it to be deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? Because you are deeper than that. You are deeper than you just singing. You're deeper than just me creating.
We don't take the time to actually do that to ourselves. So that's why when we deal with somebody else, we're like, oh, wow. It's like, well, no shit. Right. If you took the time to yourself, you will realize everything. Because how I tell people in this show is like, we're just a mirror of you. You know, with the same questions that we're asking you, you can ask yourselves. You know, we're just pulling everything out to get to know who and what you are, because we see it and then we learn from you. So it's a beautiful exchange. And at the same time, right, we get reminders of our own selves, but listening to their stories. So it's like we're a reflection of ourselves, you know, but exactly what you said, like you could do the same thing in the mirror by yourself, but people are going to label it crazy. No, you should learn how to talk to yourself. There's nothing wrong talking to yourself. Nope. You know, that is a positive relationship, because you're getting to know who and what you are. These are a lot of things that I learned from my spiritual teacher, getting to know about yourself, and also things that you don't like about yourself. That's also
Mm,
healthy, to
right.
really go into
Yeah.
like, you know what, I don't like this. I'm an asshole sometimes. I
Yep.
really don't like that,
Yep. Yep.
but I love that I'm funny. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's, I think what touching on, like what you said, when we get these guests, and like in your case, you know, it's so beautiful to see when they have the reaction, like, oh man, I can't believe like I did this, and they felt so refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful to see, but it's also, man, sad to know that like there's so many of people like that that
Hmm.
don't,
Yeah.
will
Just
probably
never
won't
know.
get that, right? And we're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
doing that because trying to
To throw it in your face.
right,
It's just
right.
to for you to want to.
Of
Or
course,
yeah,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
they feel, which you probably get this, some of your guests, why me? Why do you want to interview me? Or why
Hmm.
like, and I'm like, wait, why not you? Like
Yeah.
you,
Right, right, right.
there's so many people that walk around with, they don't feel that they
Worthy.
earn worthy. That's the word. They don't
Worthy.
feel
Yes.
They don't know their
worthy.
worth.
And I'm like, you're living, your heart is beating. You beat so many millions of other sperms to be a human. You are worthy.
Word.
Like you are fucking worthy.
Right. We're all worthy, and we all have something
Yeah.
to offer,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
to the world and to the earth and to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like all through our experience and through our stories. That's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that's beautiful about, y'all you have this platform for people to share their stories. And that's so big. I'm big on everybody sharing their story because we could all either learn from it, relate to it,
Mm-hmm.
reflect on it,
Yeah.
on somebody else's
Yeah.
story. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Definitely.
it shows how connected we are to each other, really.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like, even though we may not know each other personally, even though we, like, wow, we have that connection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
you
true.
know so shout out to y'all too for what y'all doing, man. I really,
Thank
you know what I'm
you.
saying?
Nah, it's about you, man. No,
But
no,
thank you.
no.
And go back to you.
Yeah, but keep talking if you want.
Ah.
Oh, so so now you're on this journey, right? You're
The podcast.
communicating. You got the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You're connecting with your listeners, and also you're connecting to your guests. What is something that you're learning from this feedback that you're getting from your guests and also from the listeners? What is something that was like almost like a lesson for you, or a common, something that was something common that you kept on seeing?
So what I learned really was the power of voice. Is what I learned. The power of voice. I learned how powerful we can be when we use our voices for positive, for positivity, or for
Mhm.
good
Yeah.
reason. A lot of focus sometimes is on negative things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of focus, and like, it's stuff sometimes we find funny, but it's also negative things. Like
Mm-hmm.
Kanye West, what he's going through right now with Kim
Yeah.
Oh.
Kardashian. To me, that's all negativity.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, it's nothing positive coming out of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And
so
distraction too.
right, distraction, exactly, distraction. So, that's what I learned, is the power of voice, the power that we all have, the power that we all just sometimes we need to go in within ourselves and find it, but we all have
Yeah.
that power. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And fortunately, we don't know that we have it, and we use our voice for the wrong reasons, or we use it, to push different things out there. But I am always gonna push towards using my voice for a good reason.
Mhm.
And I'm always gonna push those around me, and teach them that,
Mhm.
and show them that you're capable of having this voice that can
Right.
inspire, that can motivate, that can empower, make people feel empowered. Um, that's really what I learned.
How did
Exactly.
the work that you did on yourself help you with the relationship with your wife? Because a lot of times we feel like sometimes we're never wrong, or we play the victim, or we point the finger to somebody else. How did that help your relationship with your wife? Like, did growing to another level, or realizing certain things that you didn't realize before until you started working on yourself, and maybe she was working on herself too, because you guys both have your individual journeys and then you have one together.
Right. I think the biggest thing was really like, um saying how I feel about things. And by
Mm-hmm.
that, like, instead of being quiet about it and driving and just being upset about it, not saying anything about it, like
Mm-hmm.
actually saying something about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, actually, like not channeling that energy into like just being negative, or being like, oh, no, I'm upset, so I'm not gonna talk as much, or I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna act different now because
Right,
I'm
right.
upset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like, instead of being like, hey, babe, so like I'm a little upset because
Yeah.
so and so, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, or asking, how do you feel about this, that, you know what I'm saying? Like, even something like that, like getting her feedback and her point of view and her feelings on maybe something, right? Instead of me just being any little thing, like, it's something like I mentioned it. Like, for example, I'm here with y'all, right?
Yeah.
At this time or whatever the case may be. She doesn't have an issue with it. I don't have to ask for permission, but I mentioned it to her so that she knew that I was doing it, right? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, you know, like to me, that's
I
just
feel
something
like
that I
it's
feel like,
courtesy.
Yeah, out of
Yeah.
right, it's
consideration.
something that I should do instead of me
Consideration.
being like just popping in on a Friday night and being like,
I know this is your time.
Yeah.
The kids are
you
sleeping.
you,
Yeah.
you gotta leave the sala. I'm like, you gotta leave the sala because I'm taking over it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
but
yeah,
why? Don't
yeah.
worry about it. I'll tell you later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's not being
Hmm.
considerate. Yeah.
you know, but like even little things like that sometimes like you don't really think about, like so little things like that. It's definitely helped our relationship. And after a while, in the beginning, it was like something I had to think about doing, but now it just
Yeah.
comes natural. It comes
That's
natural for
Yeah.
her, natural for me, where we just share about how we feel about certain things. Like there's something that she gets upset because I leave my sneakers laying around, so
Yeah.
she tells me about it. And instead of being
yeah.
upset about it, she tells me like, "Hello, your
Hmm.
sneakers, pick them up."
Yeah.
You have a closet. You know what I'm saying? I have a sneaker problem, so that's what
Yeah.
it is.
I have a hat
But it's
problem,
great
so
because it's showing that you respect one another and you value each other. So that just says a lot. And also you were saying it was difficult at first, of course, because you were just learning. And now
Right.
that it's already like something that you've learned and conquered, then now you just keep going to learn out more things, you know?
did you see a difference in your parents in the sense of like they're seeing this different version of you and you working on yourself? Did you see a difference where they're using moments to communicate with you to also learn about themselves and to heal from their past?
I feel like they do. I feel like first off, I feel like my dad is like extremely proud. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he in a way he sees it like I feel like since after we had the conversation, he sees like, oh, I see how my son is raising his kids, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
extremely proud of how he's raising them. Like they feel love. You know what I'm saying? Like he sees that love and he
Yeah.
feels that love, which I think is something that makes me very, very happy. You know, like
Yeah.
um we never want to disappoint our parents. That's something that you never disappoint your mom or your dad, but like also feeling that your dad is appreciative of the person you are. And you know, and that's nothing. My dad tells me now all the time, like I'm happy of the the person you are. You know, you're a good person. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like I'm not perfect or anything, but I'm like yo
Yeah.
no soy
Yeah,
perfecto
but
ni
he's
nada de eso. Yo no soy
yeah,
perfecto, pero you know what I'm saying? Like he you know, but he's like no, like
he's
you're somebody who
acknowledging
has
it.
you know what I'm saying? Like you're not some like there's a lot of bad people in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
There's a lot
saying?
of
Like
assholes.
doing a lot of bad things. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
Like my dad's like, like the fact that you call me every day and that we talk, like little things like that. And I think
Mhm.
that will happen because of the fact that we had that conversation. Like there's
Mhm.
been a change from that conversation and our relationship from that conversation to now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really been because of that.
Well, also
Well,
Then,
you're in that moment you became his teacher, and I'm
yeah.
proud of your dad that he allowed himself
To,
for you to
yes,
be his teacher in that moment,
yeah,
because not a lot of
definitely.
dads would hear you, and if they
Yeah.
do hear you, they was like, well, I'm not going to keep hearing you. You have your moment, and that's it.
Yeah.
But he allowed
right,
that moment to continue to hear you and to continue to grow. Whether he wants to say it out loud or not, and be like, wow, you became my teacher in that moment, or you taught me something, doesn't matter. His action speaks more,
Yep.
and you definitely showed him a different way, and and your parents too. So your mom too. So kudos to y'all, but kudos to them because parents, of course, especially old school parents, and they it's hard for them to say, damn, I fucked up.
Mhm.
It's hard for
Mhm.
them. They'll say, well, I put food on the table, that's more than enough, or I said, but
hmm
you could have been out on the street,
Mhm.
you could have done all this stuff, but I made it my business to have a job and do this, which
Mhm.
is one aspect of being a parent. There's other aspects too, but like you said, they didn't have that, so they wasn't taught that, but they are now learning that it's never too late to learn something new and to hear your child and to grow
Yeah.
and to move forward, and not
right.
repeat the same cycle.
And I also think that it's like again, like you said, like it's something. It's not what you say; it's how you say it,
Mhm.
right? Like that communication, that conversation I had with my parents. if I expressed it in a different kind of way, me and my
Yeah.
dad wouldn't have
Word.
been so accepting of what I was
Word.
saying, right?
Exactly.
He'd
Yep.
been like, "Why are you coming at me? I took care
Yeah.
of you, right?
Yep.
Like I fed you.
Yeah.
You had a home. Like,
Yep.
what are you really sad about? This because I didn't have anything. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
depending on how I express it, right? But
Yep.
I made sure that I used what I learned in therapy to
Mhm.
express myself in a healthy way and do it where I wasn't coming at them or attacking them. It was more of like, this is how I
It's my
feel,
issue.
and
Yeah.
I'm just telling you so you know how I feel.
Yeah.
And again,
Here's
it
my
doesn't mean
truth.
that right, and it doesn't mean that I love you less. It's just that's the
Mhm.
reason why maybe I haven't spoken to you as much. Maybe that's the reason why sometimes I act the way I act when it comes to certain things.
Right.
But it's not because I love you less, you know. Like so, again, it's about, and I say this to people out there listening because I know sometimes like we like, oh, I try to talk to my parents. My parents is this,
Mhm.
this,
But
this.
how
You know what I'm
did you
saying? But what?
try?
How did you do it though? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how did you come across? Like did you just
Yeah.
yell at them and expect like that's not gonna happen like that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
And
Like again,
People get
the only
defensive with that.
sometimes you could have done it the Mozo way, but then you have your parents that are still the asshole way, that they don't
of
want to
course,
hear it.
yeah,
Depends on the
But you
person.
still
Yeah.
right,
have to not act out of your character and still remain in the same zone you came in and be like, okay,
Yeah. Not let it
here's
affect
my
you.
truth, and
Yeah.
I hear your truth, and now we're just gonna nip it in the bud.
Yep.
But you
Yep.
use
Yep.
that moment to let it go and move forward, and that's it. Because
right,
they are having that pride and ego in the way, and they're blocking what could have
Mhm.
been, and they're gonna
right.
be stuck in their own ways. That's another thing too that people need to realize. Well, I tried, and then he said this shit, and now I'm back to my old ways. So fuck him. Like, no,
Right,
you just gave your power away. So
Yeah.
now they won.
right.
They
Yeah. Yeah.
took you out
Yeah.
of your element.
Yep.
Well said. Well said.
I was gonna ask you, Mozo, now that you found out you were gonna be a father for the first time, and what was that like for you? That experience and being in the process as a
Mhm.
man and a father.
It was scary.
Yeah.
It was probably I don't want to say one of the scary ones. It's probably one of the scariest ones of my life in a
Mhm.
sense because you don't know what it's gonna be like you know like,
Mhm.
and there's nothing that can prepare you for it. And you're hearing
No.
people from left and right telling you everything. Like I got my dad telling me it was
Yeah.
what a dad's supposed to be like. I got media telling me what
Mhm.
dad's supposed to be
Mhm.
like. I got everything culture telling me what dad's supposed to be like, right? All the influences, the environment, everything telling me what
Mhm.
dad's supposed to be like. When at the end of the day, for me, dad is just being honest, um, being real, being loving, and keeping your mind and your heart open. You know, that to me
Mhm.
what being dad is. Everything else that comes across with it is just what life is around it. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
that's what it is. There's no way nothing that can prepare you for being a dad. So that's really one of the scary that was
Mhm.
really one of the scariest ones in my life was being a dad. But if you would have asked me that back then when I was about to be a dad, I wouldn't
I,
have said that.
okay,
Mm.
so that's what I want to know. I want to know what because I already know where you are now. I want to so people can see the difference. Where was your head at when you found out? Because you weren't the Mozo that you are right now.
Right. So my head was just like, oh, first of all, I was like, all right. Yeah, I found out it was a boy. I'm like, okay, he's gonna be like me.
Yeah.
He's gonna do this. He's gonna
Mm.
play basketball. He's gonna play
Yeah.
baseball. He's gonna be pretty much mini me.
Yeah.
And I gotta make sure I'm working, making money. I gotta make sure that like I didn't think about anything emotional whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay, yeah.
nothing from the emotional side. I didn't think nothing about that. I was just thinking about everything that
On
again
the surface.
that the media
Yeah,
fed
yeah,
me,
yeah.
everything that's superficial. I was always thinking
Mm.
about everything else around me. Um, but the crazy part is like when my son was born and I held him for the first time, I cried uncontrollably. Like I
Mm.
could not stop.
Mhm.
Like I was just crying, crying. Everybody's like, yo, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm just really happy right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I really think the reason I was really also crying is because like I was also scared. Like I think that's what it was. I was
Mhm.
like,
You held
it was
everything that
like
you held in, you came
That's
out.
right.
right. Right. It was like all that fear and
Boy,
everything. It was like,
son.
oh my God, it's here right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Everything I
yeah,
was
yeah.
holding on to that I wasn't thinking about. Here it is at this moment. And
Yeah.
well,
I
like
wanted to cry, but it didn't come out. Like for me, it
Did it
was
ever
this.
come out at any point?
No,
Like
it's still.
after?
I
Or it
still
still
have the
hasn't come out?
same. I
He's
still
still
have the same feeling. Like holy
whoa,
shit!
Oh, okay.
Like this.
Cool.
bro, for
I
me, it
still.
just came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I still have
Nice.
this wow factor. Like when she was born. Like and they saw it put on the table. I just kept on looking at her. Like this is my child. Like even like today. Like my daughter was sitting right next to me, and I would just look at her like the same way I looked at her when she was born. Like, holy
Yeah.
crap! Like, it's still this unbelievable
Right,
feeling for me.
right.
And I do have, I love her a lot. But no, I think just because, I think just because I was working on, not saying that, I don't know. It's just, I was already open expressing a lot of things, how I was feeling through the process. So one of the consistent thing that was there, my emotions was like, I can't believe this is really happening. And like, we get closer and closer and closer. And then when it really happened, I'm like, wow. And, I definitely felt proud. I think that was something that did happen. I was like, wow. And I held her. I was like, I'm proud. Like I'm a father, but I still had this thing. I did want to have those emotional that cry, but I cried in different ways.
Yeah.
And instead of like
Right, yeah.
my version of cry was
everybody's different.
being so grateful and thankful that like, oh
Right.
wow, this is beautiful. This moment, I can't believe it. Like I'm still on cloud nine in a sense when I look at her. So that's my version of that, and I think that's different from father to father.
Right, and again, like we're all like different emotionally too, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I've always been an emotional person. I feel like a lot of times I had to mask it into other ways, right? Like into fighting, or to get into fights, into screaming, into acting that kind of way, right? Like I feel like I had to put. That's why I put my emotional energy into, right? Because I had nothing. I didn't know any other way. Like it was, I was like, instead of me talking about how I was feeling, it was more like, let's go, let's fight. I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Like type of energy, So I think that's something also that I just always been an emotional person. Like I watch movies now and shows, and I'm like,
that's like I cry too at movies. Like so that's why I'm like, when my daughter was like bored, I was like, where the tears coming? But I was like, all right, cool, they didn't come. But it's not to say that I don't love her, like because I know I'm just saying because I just hear so many father stories and like there's like, yo, when the baby came out, I cried. And like, so I guess I had maybe
you thinking something was wrong with you. Maybe
no, I did question it, like, well, why didn't I cry? I did question it, but I was like, because I hate when people hype things up. I'm not saying that having a baby is it is the most beautiful thing, but every person I spoke to was like, wait until you grab that baby, you're gonna cry. If you didn't cry, you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry. So here I am, like, is this a sign that I don't love my child?
You're like
yeah.
Like, where is it? Where is it?
Exactly. I'm like, I think there's something wrong with me right now. I'm like, but I don't hate her. Like, I love this child. Like, why not one tear? So like, I questioned that, I guess, because there was so much hype around it. Like, yo, you gonna cry, man. You can't. And they were like, you can't help it either. But then in my head, I'm like, maybe you cried because you never cried it. You covered up all your other cries in your life. But me, I cried a lot in my life, and I cried in movies. So I'm like, maybe I didn't need this moment to show my wife and everyone that I really love this baby because I cried. Because if you do cry and the men cry and they hold it, they're like, oh my God, he really loves that child. Like, look, he cried. So I guess, right? It's true though, because like everybody's like, oh, and I guarantee the wife or someone, they probably never seen their husband cry. And they see that moment grabbing their daughter and like, oh my, and now she cries like, oh my God, he's crying.
And now everybody's crying.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. We just solved something right here.
I know. I think you nailed it when you said, I think the reason why I cried like that is because it was just years and years and years of so much emotion. And that was such an emotional moment that I just exploded. Like everything just let out.
Now that was great.
Here's the cherry on top. Now I bet you if we asked all the fathers and if we asked them, what were some moments in your life that you cried? I bet you number one that will always come up when my kid was born. But they won't label anything else. When my dad beat me when I was young, or I had or when I had all this anger. And they won't name none of those things because they probably held it on or they cried with the anger, but they'll feel proud to say, well, my daughter's born. Of course I cried. But if you ask them anything else, they won't say
you're right.
All those things.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at that. We just solved something.
And ever since then, I've been crying left and right. You know what I'm saying? That was the thing that turned the switch on. After that, I've been crying left and right. I've been watching
the floodgates.
I watched Coco. When Coco came out, and I was just like, oh my God. I was like,
yeah. It's true. Those Pixar movies, man, they get me all the time, bro. All the time.
Man, it's crazy. Or not even that. Or even going to like a son, like my son, whenever he's 11 now. Of course, I still like get like emotional with him and stuff. But I'm like when he was younger, when I was like a fresh dad, and he started school, and he would have like award ceremony. I was like, you know what I'm
See,
saying? Like
now you're putting pressure on me. Now when she gets awards, I'm like, yo, where the tears? I'm still not crying. Why am I not crying?
Watch when you see her on stage.
I think I might not cry, but I might feel so proud. I know I'm gonna
yeah,
feel so
yeah, yeah. I
proud.
think that's what it is. Like
know?
it's more like again, like it's just we're all different emotions. I feel like like I just get so emotional sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's proud and like I get these goosebumps and everything, but it's more
Yeah.
just like of just like that proud feeling, like, oh man, like
Yeah.
he's doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like I'm so proud of him. Like,
Yep.
That's awesome.
Now I'm most likely, hopefully, if we continue raising this human being right, that down the road, that down the road, she like when they're older and they'll come to you or they do a speech and they thank you. I think I'll tear. I'll cry in those moments. I will cry in those moments. Yeah, when they say, "Yo, my
same.
dad, my mom was this, and they did this, and they did that, stuff like that." I'm like, because I cry when I hear those speeches and they talk about it. So I gotta cry when it's to me now. I gotta cry, and if I don't, I'm questioning it, bro. I'm going to therapy, and just for that one thing, I'm going to therapy.
Oh man.
No, go ahead.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask, what is your ultimate goal for yourself with everything that you're doing? What is like something that you want to leave behind in this legacy for you, for your listeners, for your family? What is this thing that you want that you would like to see and happen that you've already been seeing, but leaving behind,
For me, really, it's about the impact,
Mm-hmm.
and the impact that I want to leave behind is just where whenever I come in contact with anybody, whether it be in person, whether it be through Zoom, whether it be through podcast, whatever it is, I want that person to leave and feel like they have power, like they have, like they're strong, like you can do it. You know what I'm saying? That's what my goal is. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what my purpose is. I feel like I believe we all have the power to do this, but I also feel like sometimes this also takes you being able to get up in front of people and speak to them. There's also, we're all different. Like I said, some people are okay. Some people aren't comfortable with coming to somebody and just speaking to some random person. I'm okay with doing that. I can be that person where if I don't know somebody, I'm okay with introducing myself and having a conversation with them. But I want just everybody to make sure that they understand that everything you're looking for in life is within you. Everything all the love, everything that you're looking for is within yourself. You know what I'm saying? We get caught up because of everything else going around us, and we think we need to find it here, find it there, find it everywhere. But it's really truly within us. And that's really what I want to just leave the person, whoever I come in contact with. That's my purpose. Everything that you're looking for, everything you love is within you. So just look inside yourself. You know what I mean? Look inside yourself, find yourself, and always love yourself, because that's the only way you can love anything or anyone else, is by having that relationship with yourself.
What is the first step you would recommend to people who want to go in that path of trying to solve and work on themselves? Like, what is something that the first step that they can do that helped you?
The first step is really just the willingness and the understanding that you want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, don't go to therapy because someone told you to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Don't go do this because someone told you to do this. Do it because you want to do it. Do it because you believe it. And sometimes we're not ready to do certain things. And if you're not ready for it, then that's okay too. You know what I'm saying? But also understanding that you need to get ready is also another thing too. So even though you may not be ready, sometimes people know they're not ready. And sometimes people will know, and I respect that. Like if I come to somebody and they're not, Mozo, I'm not ready for all this conversation, bro. Like I'm not ready for all this. I respect that. Thank you. Because I'd rather have somebody tell me that than someone just saying, or whatever. And right. And they're not really about it. So, just the first step is that, just the willingness to really want to make that change. It's not going to be easy at first. It's not, but it's going to take work. But you take that first step, And if you take that first step, the next step, and they small steps, but like I said this morning on my Instagram, sometimes the small steps you take just lead to a bigger step.
Mhm. Ooh. With that said, we're gonna go to the next and last segment, and we have these cards, and I'm gonna shuffle it and just pull out one card, and it has two questions, and I'll ask you the two questions.
Sounds good.
The first question is, what are two things still on your bucket list?
Ooh, that's a good question. Two things on my bucket list. Oh my god, I have so many things on my bucket list. I gotta pick two of them. Jeez. Um, my first bucket list. My first thing is I would. One of the things I want to do on my bucket list is I want to visit Hawaii.
Okay.
I want to visit Hawaii. And it's something I've always wanted to do as a kid. I don't know why I was so intrigued in Hawaii as a kid. Like I don't know what I saw that made me want to be so into it. But ever since I was a kid, I've been into Hawaii, and it's also because I feel like I haven't met any Hawaiian people.
Yeah,
Like I feel like it's kind of weird.
Probably
To
came
me.
from a past life.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You
but I
know,
didn't
so
say, yeah. You
so
also
you know,
could
like
pass like you're Hawaiian. In a way.
maybe one day I'm gonna visit though. One day
I
I'm gonna
saw
go
it
over
when you
there.
said it.
Yeah, I'm going to be there one day.
Number two.
And that's another thing on my bucket list is I want to go again. It's the main things, but one of the things that I feel like I can do this soon. I wanna go to Dominican Republic,
Okay.
and I've been there many times.
Oh, I was gonna ask you, haven't been?
No, I've been there. I used to go every summer as a kid,
Okay.
from
Oh, okay.
kindergarten to like 8th grade. I was there every
Nice.
single summer.
Nice.
But I want to go to Dominican Republic, and I want to speak to the men in Dominican Republic.
Nice.
I want to go.
Great.
I want to go to the campos. I want to go
Mm.
and speak to the men, like speak to the young men, speak to the men, have conversations with them about different topics, the things that I like to talk about, and I feel like they'd be open to that, especially someone come. I feel like another thing I want to say is I feel like us men, we want to have these conversations. We just don't feel like we think that we're going to be judged by having them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so big on like, just like, this is who I am. I am a Dominican man, with a wife and kids, and I'm still here. I'm still here to have these conversations. Like I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't fit the stereotype. Like
Yeah.
of what a Dominican man is supposed to be. Like maybe physically I fit in when someone sees me from the outside, but once you start getting to know me, you'd be like, wait, he's a little different from the other guys that I've spoken to. So I want to go to DR, and I want to speak to the young men over there, and just hold kind of like meetings. Like that's something I want to do. Like maybe like go for a summer and do like something where every week or every couple of days hold a meeting, and we can have like kind of like a men's group type thing. And maybe again, that's the impact, right? Like I'll leave, but hopefully even if it's just 2 men out of the 15 that are able to now grow from that and be able to do that, and something was done.
The rose that grew from DR.
Right. Another one.
The second and last question.
Next question.
If you didn't have to sleep, what would you do with the extra time?
Wow. I feel like someone asked me this recently.
Yeah.
Like hanging out. Someone asked me this. It was like, oh, I think no, they asked me, would you rather get more sleep, or stay up? Something like that.
Okay.
If I didn't have to sleep, what would I do?
Yeah, with the extra, if you didn't have to sleep, what would you do with the extra time?
The 8 hours.
Oh man.
You sleep.
I would spend it on like probably like organizing myself.
Crying more.
I would like just organize myself. I would probably like maybe watch a few movies.
Put your shoes away.
Write some things down. Yes, like that. That's part of organizing myself. Okay. That's really what I would do. I would be productive with it, boss. Nice. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be productive, but I would also take some time to maybe have some relaxed time where I could chill, maybe watch a show or movie that I don't have the time to watch sometimes.
Yeah. What's the message before we go? What is the message you want to leave to Dominican men? And you can say in Spanish too.
Do it my English Dominican and brothers. I'm gonna do it in both.
Do it in English and Spanish.
To my Dominican brothers, man, listen. they put us in a box of what we're supposed to be. But we are more than that. You know, we are more than just what they, you know, we're loving. You know what I'm saying? We're human. We're capable of loving. We're capable of showing emotions. And it's okay to do that. You're still strong. The real strength, the real strength is in your honesty and in your emotions and how you really feel about things. That's really the real strength. It's not about how strong you are, how many weights you lift, all that other BS that they try to tell us that that's what strength is. That's not what it is. The real strength is what you have within yourself and what you really give back also to those that you love. You know what I'm saying? Because you found it in yourself. That's the thing. Now I'm gonna say it in Spanish.
Awesome.
Para mis hermanos dominicanos, ser hombre no significa que tiene la más fuerza, ¿verdad? Con tus músculos o con lo que tú haces con tu pesa. Es los sentimientos, tus pensamientos, el amor que tú tienes para tú mismo y para tu familia o la gente que tú amas de verdad. No deje que la influencia y la televisión y la radio te diga lo que tú debes ser.